Coming up on Arirang News, one of the most powerful earthquakes to hit Turkiye has killed hundreds and injured thousands in the country and nearby Syria. Rescue operations are underway in a search for survivors as many are still trapped under the rubble. Grilling is underway at South Korea's National Assembly with the kickoff of the first parliamentary questioning session of 2023. Key questions on Monday were on the impeachment motion against the Interior Minister for mishandling of the Itaewon tragedy. The diplomatic temperature continues to rise between the U.S. and China. Beijing denounces Washington for shooting down its alleged surveillance balloon that crossed into U.S. airspace. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in South Korea, and thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with the major earthquake that has hit the border of Turkiye and Syria, killing over 1,000. It is reportedly the most powerful to hit Turkiye in more than 80 years. Countless numbers of people are still trapped under the rubble, raising fears the death toll will rise considerably in the coming hours. Our Han Sung-woo has the latest.
A magnitude 7.8 earthquake has hit southeastern Turkiye and northern Syria, killing more than 1,500 people as of 2:30 p.m. local time. According to the United States Geological Survey, the earthquake struck before daybreak on Monday at 4 a.m. when residents were likely asleep and unprepared for the impact. It struck at a depth of 17.9 kilometers, with its epicenter near the Turkish city of Nurdagi in Gaziantep province. In response, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said on Twitter that all relative units are on alert under the coordination of the AFAD, the country's Disaster and Emergency Management Authority. Officials have so far counted over 900 deaths and more than 5,300 injuries in Turkey alone. Syrian state media, meanwhile, has reported at least 592 fatalities across several cities, including Aleppo and Hama. The death toll is expected to sharply rise as rescue teams on both sides of the border frantically search for survivors trapped under huge piles of rubble from collapsed buildings.
The number of people rescued from the rubble reached 2,470. The number of buildings found to be collapsed is 2,818. We do not know how far the number of dead and injured will rise, as debris removal works continue in many buildings in the quake zone. Our hope is that we will recover from this disaster with the least loss of life.
Due to the Anatolian fault line in the north, Turkey is one of the world's most active earthquake zones. But CNN reports that earthquakes of this magnitude are rare, saying that on average, less than 5 occur worldwide each year. A total of 7 quakes of magnitude 7.0 or stronger have hit Turkey in the past 25 years. Monday's earthquake is believed to be the most powerful to strike Turkey since 1939, the year a quake of the same magnitude killed 30,000 people. Erdogan said that 45 countries had offered help with search and rescue efforts. According to South Korea's presidential office, President Yoon Suk-yeol has instructed the nation's foreign ministry and its Office of National Security to come up with active ways to offer Turkey humanitarian aid. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
The South Korean National Assembly kicked off its 3-day parliamentary questioning on Monday. The lawmakers questioned government officials on a range of topics regarding political matters, diplomacy, and security. But the key question for the day surrounded the impeachment motion against Interior Minister Lee Sang-min. Lee Si-woo has the details.
South Korea's National Assembly on Monday afternoon kicked off its first parliamentary questioning session of 2023. During the question and answer session, set to last for 3 days until Wednesday, the nation's rival lawmakers are grilling government officials on a wide range of topics. Monday's session focused on political and diplomatic matters as well as security and unification. Lawmakers quizzed the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, and the Interior and Safety Minister, among others. Some key questions for the day included South Korea's strategies with North Korea as well as the government's follow-up measures to the Itaewon crowd crush that took away 159 lives late last year. The main opposition Democratic Party, which earlier in the day introduced an impeachment motion against Interior Minister Lee Sang-min for an alleged lack of appropriate response, continued discussing the matter.
An impeachment motion has been submitted to the National Assembly today. How do you feel?
I will share more details once it's more organized.
Once the motion is passed by Parliament, the Constitutional Court will review the decision to see whether the official in question has violated the Constitution or law. During the questioning, the ruling People Power Party took the time to ask the Prime Minister whether a violation of law had been confirmed.
Did you find any violations of law by the Interior Minister?
What I know is that there aren't any, according to the report by the Special Investigation Unit.
In regards to the matter, the presidential office on Monday said that it is inappropriate for the office to share its stance on the topic as the parliamentary processes are taking place at the National Assembly. However, the office did say that if carried out, impeachment could set a bad precedent as they should be reserved for when there is a significant violation of the Constitution or law. As for the parliamentary questioning, its Tuesday session will cover economic issues. Wednesday's session will focus on education, society, and culture. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
South Korea's top nuclear envoy has reaffirmed with his American counterpart the importance of achieving the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Seoul's Foreign Ministry revealed on Monday that Kim Gun and U.S. Special Representative for North Korea Sung Kim had face-to-face talks last week in Washington, where the two vowed to continue bilateral efforts to bring Pyongyang back to the negotiation table and to help the international community get a clear view of the human rights situation in the regime. Kim Gun also met with U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technology, Ann Neuberger, with whom he discussed ways to effectively block North Korea from profiting off its cyber criminal activities. Meanwhile, U.S. Deputy Special Representative for North Korea Jung Bak on Monday had talks with her South Korean counterpart in Seoul, where they agreed to continue discussing various ways to counter those threats, including unilateral sanctions. North Korea has scheduled a plenary meeting of its ruling party for late this month, and addressing urgent food issues is set to be the single topic on the agenda. The upcoming party meeting, if it convenes, would be taking place just 2 months after the previous session in late December last year, which is deemed uncommon. North Korea has planned a major political meeting this month to address its urgent food situation. The state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Monday that the members of the ruling Workers' Party's Politburo have decided to hold a larger plenary meeting in late February. Saying that a turning point is needed in farming, the party's Central Committee will gather to establish measures for immediate agricultural issues and set new goals for development. Seoul's Ministry of Unification said the North's plenary meeting, if it convenes, would be a departure from Pyongyang's standard practice of holding such sessions once or twice a year.
North Korea holding a party plenary meeting just 2 months after the previous one is not unprecedented but somewhat uncommon. As the regime is holding the session over a single agenda, which is agriculture, the South Korean government will closely monitor the North's food situation.
He added that the ministry estimates that the North saw a roughly 4% drop in food production last year, from around 4.7 million tons in 2021 to 4.5 million tons in 2022. Observers say Pyongyang's rare move indicates its urgent need to deal with worsening food shortages amid unusual weather, sanctions, and COVID-19 lockdowns. The U.S.-based North Korea monitoring site 38 North reported last month that Pyongyang's food insecurity is at its worst since its famines of the 1990s, saying food availability has likely fallen below the bare minimum with regard to human needs. The decision to hold a meeting comes amid an expected military parade in Pyongyang on Wednesday, reportedly displaying its growing collection of nuclear-capable weapons. Defense drills involve rescue operations under dire situations, and our ministry correspondent Oh Soo-young covers one such exercise. Do take a look.
15 minutes to rescue a pilot from drowning in cold water in a frozen reservoir in Int'l County. Some 40 pararescuers, or PJs, are training on a cold winter's day to hone their search and rescue abilities. There's no time to waste. Even the slightest delay can increase the chance of hypothermia and death in these sub-zero temperatures. Arriving at the scene aboard a combat helicopter, a rescuer confirms the location of the pilot and jumps down without hesitation. He attends to his colleague, then signals to the helicopter, which descends to a lower altitude. Then a hoist operator sends down a variety of equipment such as hooks, rescue baskets, and stretchers. After recovering the pilot, the rescuer checks his condition and administers first aid as the chopper heads to the Air Force Aerospace Medical Center.
We focused on strengthening our mission performance capability to successfully complete the rescue operation even in adverse conditions like the blistering cold.
Whether a pilot is submerged in icy waters or held in an enemy stronghold, air rescue missions are critical to saving lives. In times of both war and peace, it requires precision and rapid execution. The Air Force's Special Air Rescue Team are elite operatives deployed behind enemy lines for rescue and recovery during wartime. In peacetime, the team conducts rescue missions, evacuations, disaster relief, and first aid. Skills like shooting, diving, parachuting, mountaineering, and providing emergency medical care are vital for their operations. And they constantly brave extreme conditions to be prepared for any scenario.
We want to give people confidence that we rescue our pilots and comrades in danger anytime, anywhere, and under any circumstances.
Come what may, the Special Air Rescue Team is on its way. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Incheon.
Rescue workers are preparing to retrieve a fishing boat from the sea that capsized and sunk in waters of South Korea's southwestern coast on Saturday, with 4 more of the crew members still missing. A total of 12 crew members were on board, but only 3 were rescued by a nearby ship on Sunday. The ship's chief engineer was found dead on Monday morning, and South Korea's Coast Guard confirmed that more bodies were found in the following hours. Authorities plan to lift the boat out of the water using a 200-ton crane in order for them to continue searching inside for any of the missing people. The number of international flights in and out of South Korea last month reached roughly 60% of pre-pandemic levels, with the surge in flights to Japan and Southeast Asia. Data from the Transport Ministry on Monday shows that the number of international flights in January recovered to nearly 60% of January 2019 levels. The number of passengers on those flights was at roughly 58% the number in January 2019. Nearly 1.33 million travelers headed to Japan in January, roughly 8 times the number last August with the resumption of visa-free entry and the weak Japanese yen. There is also high demand for flights to Southeast Asian countries such as Vietnam and the Philippines. Last December, South Korea's National Assembly passed a law for the transition to a circular economic society. Our Lee Dae-yeon looks into how the retail industry is making efforts to boost that system.
Bringing spent resources back to life. It's part of the so-called circular economy, one of South Korea's main areas of focus this year. This concept is different from a linear economy, which is a process of using resources, creating a product, and disposing of it after use. A circular economy gives a product greater value by sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, or recycling it rather than simply trying to reduce waste. This kind of system is helpful for achieving the target of net zero, as the Korea Environmental Industry and Technology Institute say more than 9 billion tons of carbon dioxide can be cut by 2050 through a circular economy. One global information technology services and consulting company also reported $4.5 trillion worth of economic value could be created by 2030 if a circular economy is adopted. Now, retail industries are putting it into action. I'm wearing McDonald's new uniform. What's special about this jacket? It has filling made out of this recycled plastic lids. From the start of February, employees have been wearing eco-friendly uniforms. The fabric is made from recycled plastic bottles, while McDonald's lids are transformed into recycled thermal fillers.
We've been trying to reduce plastic by adopting strawless lids for the first time in the industry. The eco-friendly jacket, too, is one of our activities to support the circular economy in society.
One major retailer, too, sells bags that are made from recycled plastic banners, which had already been made from recycled plastic bottles. It takes 10 plastic bottles to make 1 square meter of banner, which cuts 354 grams of carbon dioxide compared to not using recycled materials. One expert says in order to make society more circular, goals should be more specific.
The government's goal is still vague. Instead of forcing companies to increase the use of recycled resources to 30% by 2030, they should specify what kind of resources should be used for what. This can lead to a practical investment for companies.
He added individual consumers, too, should question why waste occurs in the process of consumption. By asking these questions and finding solutions, he said it could also contribute to making society go zero waste. 이대현, 아리랑 뉴스.
The suspected spy balloon that was shot down over the U.S. airspace is causing heated discussions between the U.S. and China. This as Beijing expresses strong dissatisfaction and protest against the U.S. Kim Jong-sil with the details.
The U.S. Department of Defense released a statement on Saturday saying U.S. fighter aircraft brought down a Chinese surveillance balloon over waters off the coast of South Carolina. The balloon, known to be the size of 3 buses, could be seen falling apart after being shot. The Defense Ministry said the balloon was being used by China in an attempt to surveil strategic sites in the continental U.S. The ministry also said the action was taken on President Joe Biden's orders.
Order the Pentagon to shoot it down on Wednesday as soon as possible. They decided, without doing damage to anyone on the ground, they decided that the best time to do that was when we got over water outside within the 12-mile limit. They successfully took it down.
The U.S. government plans to further investigate the fallen remnants of the balloon. The incident has prompted U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to abruptly cancel his trip to China, originally set to take place from February 5th to 6th. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs later expressed strong dissatisfaction and protest against the U.S. use of force to attack what it described as a civilian unmanned airship. It said China has repeatedly informed the U.S. that the entry was unintended. A spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of National Defense also said on Sunday that the U.S. attack on the airship was an obvious overreaction and said China reserves the right to take necessary measures to deal with similar situations. Beijing has been maintaining its position that the balloon was being used for research, mainly meteorological purposes. Both Washington and Beijing have been working to improve bilateral ties since the leaders of the two countries met last November. But some experts say the balloon just might have created more of a rift between the two countries. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Now, turning to the war in Ukraine. Ukraine has replaced its defense minister amid the ongoing war, who has recently faced pressure over a corruption scandal. Meanwhile, there is no sign of Ukraine retreating from the eastern city of Bakhmut as the country sees it as a stronghold. Jung Eun-ju has more.
Ukraine is set to replace its defense minister Alexei Reznikov in face of a possible Russian offensive. According to David Arakhamia, the leader of President Volodymyr Zelensky's parliamentary faction, on Sunday in a telegram statement, Reznikov will be replaced by Ukraine's current military intelligence chief, Kyrylo Budanov. Budanov has risen quickly through the ranks to become one of Ukraine's youngest generals at the age of 37. He is known for having correctly predicted Russia's full-scale attack on Ukraine when most officials thought any Russian incursions would be much smaller in scope. The move comes as Ukraine has been making an anti-corruption push to gain accession to the European Union, and Reznikov's ministry has recently been embroiled in a corruption scandal. Before word of his apparent replacement on Sunday, Reznikov had just announced an internal audit of the country's armed forces related to allegations that the defense ministry was buying military provisions at inflated prices. Reznikov also said Sunday that Ukraine expects a possible major Russian offensive this month for symbolic reasons rather than from a logical military point of view. He added that Kyiv has the reserves to hold back Moscow's forces even though the latest Western military supplies will not arrive on time.
We always tell our partners officially that we will not use weapons supplied by foreign partners to fire on Russian territory.
The United States and other Western governments have pledged billions of dollars in new military assistance to help Ukraine withstand attacks and launch a counteroffensive. Russian forces have been making incremental advances in the east as Moscow tries to capture the embattled city of Bakhmut. Ukraine's defense minister described the city as a stronghold. Meanwhile, 4 people were killed and 11 injured on Sunday after Russian shelling in the Donetsk region, according to the head of the region's military administration. Jung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
One of the music industry's biggest nights of the year, the 65th Grammy Awards took place over the weekend in Los Angeles. Though it was a disappointing night for K-pop fans, the show was filled with eye-catching performances and historic firsts. Our culture correspondent Song Yu-jin brings us highlights.
Music's biggest night has come to a close. The 2023 Grammy Awards took place on Sunday local time at the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. K-pop sensations BTS were eyeing 3 trophies. Best Music Video for their song Yet to Come, Best Pop Duo or Group Performance for My Universe with British band Coldplay, and Album of the Year for Coldplay's Music of the Spheres, in which the group featured. But Taylor Swift took home the award for Best Video, Sam Smith and Kim Petras had the Best Collaboration, and Harry Styles won Best Album. Still, the night was filled with star-studded performances and historic milestones. Beyoncé set a new record for most Grammy wins in history. She now has 32 Grammys after winning 4 of the 9 categories she was nominated for this year. The pop star praised the LGBTQ artists that inspired and took part in a record renaissance. Bad Bunny's Un Verano Sin Ti became the first Spanish-language album to receive an Album of the Year nomination. Though he did not win, the Puerto Rican rapper and singer took home the award for Best Musica Urbana Album. The show also celebrated 50 years of hip-hop with a medley of rap performances by artists of different generations and subgenres. And a brand new award, too. The first Grammy for Best Song for Social Change, presented by First Lady Jill Biden, was granted to Iranian singer-songwriter Shervin Najapur for his song Baroye. The song has gained recognition as the anthem of the Mahsa Amini protests calling for freedom and women's rights in Iran. Song Yu-jin, Arirang News.
Tomorrow will be another day with wide temperature gaps. While mornings will stay chilly for most regions, daytime conditions will be close to what we normally see in early spring. Seoul will see a difference of 10 degrees in between day and night. Southern parts of the country, such as Gwangju and Uiseong, will see bigger differences. Make sure to dress in layers and be careful not to catch a cold. And with the rise in temperatures, finest concentrations have significantly soared overall. Tomorrow, western regions will see air quality standing in the bad category. That includes the Seoul metropolitan area, Gangwon-do, Chungcheong-do, and Jeollado provinces as well. Make sure to have a mask that can filter out the dust particles, such as a KF94. And partly cloudy to overcast skies are expected for the morning hours. Seoul will be starting off at 0 degrees Celsius. Highs in Seoul will get up to 10 degrees, Daejeon 11, Busan will be fairly warm at 14 degrees. Mild temperatures will continue for the time being here in Seoul. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
This brings us to the end of tonight's newscast. Thank you for staying with us. Hope everyone has a great start of the week.